Good morning, all. Welcome back to my class. Today we are going to learn a new lesson Fire, Friend and Foe. This lesson is an informative one. It is difficult to imagine our lives without fire. Fire is one of the most important discoveries in human history. However, it needs to be checked because it can create havoc if it goes out of control. Turn your textbook to page number 114. Fire, friend and foe. Foe means enemy. Early man didn't know what fire was, but he must have seen the damage it could cause. He must have watched lightning and volcanoes long before he began to use fire himself. Fire was powerful and dangerous, and he was frightened. Fire may have puzzled early man, but we now know that fire is the result of a chemical reaction. When the oxygen in the air combines with carbon and hydrogen in a fuel, a chemical reaction takes place. Energy in the form of heat and light is released in this process. This is what we call fire. Three things are needed to make fire: fuel, oxygen, and heat. Wood, coal, cooking gas, and petrol are some examples of fuel. Oxygen comes from the air. That is why when you blow on smoldering paper, it often bursts into flame. The third thing needed to make fire is heat. Fuel and oxygen do not make fire by themselves, or else a newspaper or a stick lying in the open would catch fire on its own. To burn a piece of paper or wood, we heat it before it catches fire. We generally do it with a lighted match. Every fuel has a particular temperature at which it begins to burn. This temperature is called the flash point or kindling temperature of the fuel. I am going to explain, so listen. Early man did not know how to make fire, but he must have seen the destructive powers of fire. He must have watched lightning and volcanoes. Fire was dangerous and he was afraid of it. What is fire? Fire is in fact the result of a chemical reaction. When oxygen present in the air combines with carbon and hydrogen present in a fuel, energy is released in the form of heat and light. This is what we call fire. To make fire, three things are needed: fuel, heat, and oxygen. The common fuels are wood, coal, gas, and petrol. Oxygen is present in the air. That is why when we blow on a burnt paper, it bursts into flame. Fuel and oxygen do not make fire. Heat is also needed to make fire. If a newspaper or a wood is lying in an open space, will it catch fire? Of course not. Why? To burn these things, it needs heat. A lightened matchsticks also provides heat. Every fuel begins to burn at a particular temperature. This temperature is called the flash point or kindling temperature of the fuel. Look at the textbook. It is sometimes said that fire is a good servant but a bad master. It only means that fire is very useful as long as it is kept under control. For instance, we use it to cook our food, warm our homes in winter, and to generate electricity. But on the other hand, if fire gets out of control, it can be very dangerous. Each year, thousands of homes and shops are damaged by fire. Vast areas of forest are also destroyed and hundreds of people are killed or injured. Just as three things are needed to start a fire, there are three main ways in which a fire can be put out. In each one of the three things needed for burning is taken away. For example, we can take away the fuel. If the fire has no fuel to feed on, no burning can take place. We often let a fire die out simply by not adding more fuel to it. The second way of putting out a fire is to prevent oxygen from reaching it. No supply of oxygen means no fire. Small fires can be put out or smothered with a damp blanket or a sack. This stops oxygen reaching the burning material. Sometimes carbon dioxide is used to extinguish fire. It does not allow oxygen to reach the burning material. The third way of putting out a fire is to remove the heat. If the temperature can be brought down below the flash point, the fuel stops burning. You blow on a burning matchstick or a candle to put it out. In doing so, you remove the hot air around the flame, bringing down its temperature below the flash point, and the candle goes out. Sometimes water is sprayed on a fire. It absorbs heat from the burning fuel and lowers the temperature. The blanket of water also cuts off the supply of oxygen and the fire is extinguished. I am going to explain, so listen. Fire is a good servant but a bad master. It is useful as long as it is under control. For example, we use fire to cook food, warm our homes, and to produce electricity. But if it goes out of control, it can cause damage of life, houses, shops, and even forests. We know that three things are needed to start fire. Like that, we can put out fire in three ways. The first way is to put out fire is to take away the fuel. That means if the fire has no fuel to burn, no burning takes place. The second way is to put out fire is to stop oxygen from reaching the burning material. Small fires are stopped by throwing a wet blanket on it. This stops the supply of oxygen. Sometimes carbon dioxide is used to put out fire. The third way is to bring down the temperature below the flash point. Why do candles and matchsticks go out when we blow them? In doing so, we remove the hot air around the flame and to bring down its temperature below the flash point. So the candles and matchsticks go out. Water also lowers the temperature and puts out the fire. Look at the textbook. Some fires cannot be put out with water. If water is sprayed onto an oil fire, the oil will float to the top of the water and continue to burn. This can be very dangerous because water can flow quickly, carrying the burning oil with it and spreading the fire. Water should also not be used on fires caused by electrical appliances. The person spraying water might receive an electric shock and be killed. A carbon dioxide extinguisher is the best thing to fight an electrical fire. We spend millions of rupees each year in fighting fires, and we spend more trying to find new ways of preventing fires from happening and getting out of control. On the whole, we have learned rather well to control fire and put it to good use in our everyday life. I am going to explain, so listen. Some fires cannot be put out with water. For example, if we try to put out oil fire with water, the oil will float to the top of the water and continue to burn as well as spread. Electrical fire also cannot be controlled with water. If a person spraying water to it, he may receive an electric shock and be killed. It is fought by using carbon dioxide. We have spent a lot of money for firefighting. So we have to find new ways of preventing fires. On the whole, we have learned well to control fire and to make good use of it in everyday life. Look at the textbook. Long ago, there were no firemen. When fire broke out, everybody became a firefighter. People formed human chains. They still do if required, and passed buckets of water from a well or a pond to the blaze. Now there are laws about building construction which ensure that space is left between buildings to reduce the fire risk. Every new building, especially a public place, must ensure observance of fire prevention norms. Bands of firefighting workers with special equipment known as fire brigades are there to put out fires. Firefighters are highly trained people. They possess many skills. They cut off electricity supply, knock down dangerous walls, spray water and other materials to bring fire under control. They are also trained in first aid so that they can help people suffering from burns or from the effects of smoke. The discovery of fire and its uses helped early man to cope with nature better and gradually adopt a settled mode of life. Fire is still worshipped in many parts of the world. Fire is indeed a friend, but as we know, it can be a dangerous enemy once it gets out of control. I am going to explain, so listen. Long ago, there were no firemen. At that time, the people formed human chains and threw buckets full of water on the flames. Now there are several laws and rules for constructing buildings. It ensures that space is left between buildings to reduce the fire risk. The trained team of firefighters with special equipments known as fire brigades. They are skilled people to handle all kinds of fire. They have the knowledge to cut off electricity supply, knock down dangerous walls, spray water and other materials to bring fire under control. They are also trained in first aid as well and are able to provide immediate help to the people suffering from burn injuries or from the effects of the smoke. Discovery of fire has been a boon to mankind. Fire is worshipped as God in many cultures around the world. It is a dear friend if it can be used properly, but can turn dangerous if it goes out of control. That's all for the day. Thank you.